All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking a truly fascinating section of a 20th century masterpiece, Part D of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi's Treatise on Nature. If you're someone who loves exploring that sweet spot where deep philosophical thought meets rigorous scientific inquiry, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to look at how this historic text tackles some of the biggest questions of human existence using nothing but pure logic, and as you'll see, modern science surprisingly echoes these exact ideas. So let's just dive right in. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. 3 big philosophical objections. 2. Nothing comes from nothing. 3. Does God need worship? 4. The secret of ease. And 5. Science meets philosophy. Section 1. 3 big philosophical objections. The ancient questions we still ask today. Moving right into Section 2. Nothing comes from nothing. The mystery of creation from a void.
You know, these aren't just dry, obscure academic debates. These are ancient, highly rational questions that we human beings have been chewing on for centuries. Let's start with the first, and honestly, probably the most famous objection. The argument goes like this. Ex nihilo nihil fit. It's a Latin phrase that just means nothing comes from nothing. This is basically the foundational claim of materialism. The logic is that because we, as humans, can't pull something out of absolutely nothing, well, matter must have just always existed. And if matter has just always been there, the argument concludes that a creator is completely unnecessary. Well, Nursi offers a really elegant philosophical comeback to this. He basically states that the nothing from nothing rule is a limitation of finite, weak beings, like us. It doesn't apply to an omnipotent creator. He maps it out by describing 2 totally distinct modes of creation. First is ibda, which is absolute origination and invention from nothing. The second is insha, which is more about the construction and the art of assembling things from the existing elements of the universe. So the crucial takeaway here is that just because you or I can't create a universe from a total void, doesn't mean a supreme being can. But that raises a brilliant question, right? Does modern empirical science actually prove that absolutely nothing can come from a vacuum? If we look at the physics of the 21st century, does that old materialist claim actually hold up in the laboratory? What's genuinely mind-blowing is how quantum physics answers that. Turns out, even the absolutely emptiest regions of space aren't truly empty. Because of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, we know energy fluctuations are actually permitted in a vacuum. Then you have the Casimir effect, which physically proves vacuum energy is real by showing how parallel plates in a vacuum will actually attract each other. And we definitely can't forget Hawking radiation. That shows particle-antiparticle pairs continuously forming right at the edge of black holes, literally popping in and out of apparent nothingness. So modern physics observes particles being born from a vacuum all the time.
And let's zoom out to the macro level for a second and see how this builds. Cosmology shows our universe expanded about 13.8 billion years ago from a single, infinitely dense point. But physicists like Stephen Hawking and Roger Penrose actually proved that time itself began at the Big Bang. That means asking what happened before the Big Bang is scientifically meaningless. There was no before. The universe, along with time itself, was created all at once. This perfectly mirrors Nursi's concept of ibda, and amazingly, it echoes the 4th century thinker Augustine, who argued that God didn't create the world in time, but rather with time.
Okay, Section 3. Does God need worship? A question of benefit and purpose. So, having tackled the origins of the entire universe, we're going to shift to something highly personal. This is an incredibly relatable objection. I'm sure you've heard someone ask, or maybe wondered yourself, if God is so immense and so powerful, why would he care if I, just a tiny little human being, pray or not? What could my worship possibly contribute to a supreme being?
Nursi completely flips the script on this one. Listen to his exact words here. God Almighty has no need for your worship, but you need worship. You are spiritually ill. He argues that the very premise of the objection is entirely backward. The act of worship isn't designed to benefit the Creator at all. It's 100% designed to benefit the human. And he uses this brilliant analogy that just makes it instantly click. Imagine a sick patient asking a really compassionate doctor who's insisting they take their medication. What need do you have for this? Why are you insisting on me taking it? I mean, it's an absurd question, right? The doctor doesn't need the medicine, the patient does. In Nursi's framework, divine commands to worship are exactly like a doctor's prescription. They are given purely for the well-being and the spiritual health of the human being.
So the next logical question is, does modern science actually back up this idea of worship as medicine? Absolutely it does. Modern neuropsychology shows us that the physical movements and the intense focus in prayer act like a really powerful form of meditation. Researcher Andrew Newberg actually found that prayer actively stimulates the prefrontal cortex, which is the brain's center for attention. Regular worshipers show significantly lower levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. In communal settings, it even triggers oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Psychologically speaking, it provides a profound sense of meaning, which lines up perfectly with Viktor Frankl's meaning-centric logotherapy.
And if you want the hard empirical data, check this out. A landmark 2016 study published in JAMA Internal Medicine found a 33% lower risk of all-cause mortality for regular worshipers. I mean, that is a massive medical benefit. The science directly supports the philosophical claim here. The human body and mind fundamentally benefit from the act of worship. It really is medicine.
Section 4. The Secret of Ease. Why unity is simpler than multiplicity.
The core question we're looking at now is about why attributing creation to a single creator, what's called the path of unity or tawahid, is logically just so much simpler. In the path of unity, one mind governs the universe. Everything just flows smoothly from the exact same law. But if you take the path of multiplicity, so attributing creation to random chance or countless separate causes, every single atom would essentially need its own separate creator and its own factory. You'd have all these countless conflicting forces, which frankly leads to a mathematical impossibility.
To help us visualize this, Nursi uses this really great analogy of an army. If an entire army receives its orders from one single commander, then supplying, equipping, and directing, say, 100,000 soldiers is a calm, coordinated, and simple process. But imagine the sheer chaos if every single soldier had a totally different commander. Equipping them would require 100,000 separate, overlapping, conflicting operations. A single center of command is what makes immensely complex operations astonishingly easy.
Let's translate that army analogy into a modern computer science parallel. Think about tech giants like Google or Amazon. They process billions of operations seamlessly, right? And they do that because they use one central algorithm and architecture. If they had to write and run a completely separate, independent algorithm from scratch for every single user, the whole system would crash instantly. The universe works the exact same way. An electron is identical in every single atom across the entire cosmos. That level of perfect uniformity points directly to the efficiency of one central creator.
Nursi explains this ease through two dimensions: divine decree, which is the plan, and divine power, which is the execution of that plan. And just look at how flawlessly this maps onto modern biology. Divine decree is exactly like DNA. It's the information code, the ultimate master plan. And divine power? Well, that's like protein synthesis, the actual physical realization of that code. Without the code, no program runs. But with one unified master code, creating complex life becomes remarkably efficient.
Finally, Section 5. Science meets philosophy. The synthesis of ancient faith and modern data. You know, it is just incredibly satisfying to see the symmetry between a philosophical text from the early 20th century and the hard empirical data we actually have today. Let's do a quick recap of the journey we've been on. When faced with the claim that nothing comes from nothing, Nursi argued this is simply a limitation of finite beings, which is an idea now fully supported by quantum vacuum fluctuations and Big Bang cosmology. When asked why God needs worship, his answer that you need the medicine is powerfully backed up by modern neuropsychology and health data. And when proving why unity is easier than multiplicity, his logic is perfectly reflected in the efficiency of central server algorithms and the universal code of DNA.
Ultimately, Nursi ties the whole shebang together by describing a beautifully designed, rule-governed universe. He writes, "Just as a clockmaker makes the wheels of the clock and then regulates it, he has willed the great universal laws governing the motion of the universe." It's this incredible vision of reality where divine power doesn't contradict the laws of nature, but rather is the very source of them.
We've covered some massive ground today, connecting philosophical arguments with quantum physics, neuroscience, and computer architecture. But it leaves us with one final fascinating thought to chew on. If ancient theology and modern science can align this seamlessly on such monumental questions, what else might they agree on? Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.